So, after many false alarms, finally the Labour Party has released what it says is its authentic manifesto, all of 72 pages, titled "It's Possible, Our Pact with Nigerians," with the trademark PO in capital letters. According to Utomi, the presidential candidate, it lays out his mission focus with all its overarching visionary policy planks, and central to this is his plan for securing, uniting and making Nigeria productive. To do this, the manifesto is broken into 7 main priority target areas, including ending banditry and insurgency, shifting from consumption to production, restructuring Nigeria, building infrastructure, and enhancing human capital, amongst other things. So now that the real McCoy has emerged, are these just ideas that people might like, or are they practical policies that can work and be paid for? Well, for more on this, I'm joined now in the studio by the Professor of Political Economy and founder of the Center for Values and Leadership, Dr. Utomi, who's also a chieftain of the Labour Party, and I'm told one of the architects of this manifesto. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure.
And this manifesto is the Labour Party's and the Obi Datti vision. Spell it out for us. What are the key policies?
Well, to make any progress, we have to secure and unite Nigeria. Look, agriculture is in trouble. There is food insecurity, if I may use that, partly because people can't go to the farms. And so you got to secure this country. You got to unite this country. You got to make it go from consumption to production. Nigeria used to be a producing country. If you go back to the foundations of our country, you will find that even industrialization, where we have become such incredible laggards, you know, AU met recently on industrialization in Africa in Niamey, and Nigeria was a backwood country. I mean, small countries like Rwanda, like South Africa, of course, and all of those were the start. Morocco before us in industrialization. Nigeria was in the backwoods. But people forget that in this country, we began export-led manufacturing. In 1960, a textile mill in Kaduna exported its first 6 months of production, sold out before it started, to merchants in Manchester, and broke even in 1 month as a company. And suddenly Nigeria cannot manufacture anymore. This country was a country of groundnut pyramids, of cocoa in the west, cotton in the north, oil palm in the east, and so on and so forth. Now we are not producing. How did we get here? Well, we know how we got here. If you do serious work, you can identify how we got here, and you can find how to reverse that trend. It is possible. A new Nigeria is possible. Where we are is a function of a number of factors, the most important of which is an irresponsible political elite that managed to take the coming of oil as assurance that they can take care of themselves, not of the country. And so we began a culture of gouging, rent seeking, a narcissism, obsessive self-love, in which all that matters is the well-being of politicians. In fact, our democracy became a government of politicians, for politicians, by politicians, completely lost in their visioning of Nigeria were the Nigerian people. That's how Nigeria got here. And we can change this by just making the Nigerian people know that governing is about them. Committed, selfless, competent leaders of character can make it happen. It's not going to be easy. They brought us so far down that a turnaround will not be magic, but it is possible.
But you're making that point, though, are you, to the people, that a turnaround won't be like waving a magic wand?
It cannot be.
Many of them certainly believe that's what's going to happen.
It cannot be, but the thing is that if you begin to do the right thing, the power that drives you when you begin to do the right thing will amaze people, but it's certainly not a magic one. I mean, just take the fiscal state. I mean, it's not sustainable. I mean, we are borrowed out of anything sensible. How do you come back from that? Well, it is possible that when you begin to produce, you expand the base. People feel more. Right now, capital is leaving Nigeria. Big
Yeah, but for you
businesses,
to expand that base is going to take quite some time because there are so many variables that are attached to that expansion of the base.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's electricity,
Absolutely.
There's security, there's all kinds of things.
But let me give you examples of how countries have got out of this. And it really hurts when you think about it. Take Vietnam. After the carpet bombing of the war in Vietnam, Vietnam was like, it's gone. There's what is left. Guess what? Vietnamese recognized that they had to produce. Recognized they needed short-term emergency things before they started working on the longer-term things. And so they worked with international capital to bring in power on barges, floated down the Mekong River, and they began to produce. And once that began to happen, their grid started getting built up. And Vietnam was up like a rocket. Long overtook Nigeria in production and all of that. In fact, one of the most disgraceful things that happens is that around April, Nigeria is, awash with Vietnamese trying to buy up cashew nuts. I mean, they're in Enugu, they're in all these places buying cashew nuts and shipping to Vietnam, and then processing cashew nuts and selling to the airlines flying to Nigeria. And Nigerian elites are happy to eat those cashew nuts. It's so many mind upsetting stuff that's happened because we have an irresponsible political class.
Right, but you talked about the Vietnamese and how they brought sort of power down barges and things like that. I mean, realistically speaking, what sort of time frame are you talking about? Because let's take, for example, that you win the 2023 election. You've got 4 years. You may not be re-elected. So you've got to act as if you've got to do everything in those 4 years. What can you realistically achieve in that time?
Plenty. You see, what the world needs is signaling. You signal rightly that you're not a corrupt group forging around and forcing for your corner. You'll be amazed. Let's even take power. Look at what happened between Nigeria and Egypt. Nigeria and Egypt set out to get more power. Same time. Approach the same company. Siemens. Siemens said, look, no, Egypt said to Siemens, we don't have cash to give you. We'll provide some foreign guarantees. Go find the people to finance this thing. Less than 2 years later, Egypt had added several thousand megawatts of power. Nigeria said, okay, well, we will find the money to pay you. We spent 1 year in a Federal Executive Council going up and down, looking for what cut we'll get from here and there. And while we're still doing all of this, and then we found all this money we could use for other things in Nigeria and give Siemens, the power was already on in Egypt within 2 years. So, all the world needs to do is see that serious people are running Nigeria, that are committed to Nigeria, and they see the opportunities in Nigeria, money will come. See, there has never been a time in human history where we have been awash with capital. Perhaps the leading authority on this subject today is the French economist Thomas Piketty. And Piketty makes the point about this enormous accumulation from globalization of capital. The problem is this capital is in a few hands. In fact, no more than 20 men or so in California own more capital than the continent of Africa. They just need to kind of feel, oh, this guy's on the right path, look at opportunities, and you'll be amazed what can happen. So the biggest thing we need is confidence. Confidence that they are honest, committed people who care about the Nigerian people running Nigeria.
Right. But really the key is also to have more than just sort of ideas, because of course at this stage, I mean, you're all very brilliant. I mean, you're a professor, but it's all theoretical. I mean, isn't it? These are voters want to see practical policies that can work and be paid for. How can we referee all this? Because the scale of Nigeria's problems are really beyond anything that we've ever seen before. You make a comparison with the 60s. Nigeria's never been this bad.
Yeah, but we have been able to do things that worked, even in the middle of this mess. Let's take what our young people have done with 2 or 3 sectors of the economy, and you will see the possibilities. Let's start with the tech space. This year, more than $4 billion is flowing into the continent of Africa in that space. Nearly 70% is coming to Nigeria. In this bad environment, they have identified possibilities, and US investors have poured money into that space. Nigeria has what? The continent has about 5, 6, 7 unicorns. That is $1 billion companies. About 3 of them are Nigerian kids who, just out of the sheer creativity, force of their creativity, have built extraordinary global companies. And that can be ratcheted up very quickly with some more serious government engagement in making that space work. Take Nollywood and what we have done with that creative space. I have for many years said that one of the greatest potents of the Nigerian economic terrain is culture. Nigeria can sell its culture and make a fortune from it because it is rich. And Nollywood people have proved that point. Of course, music, that related. But you see a sector that can even do much more very quickly, and we're not paying much attention to, because government sees that as where to send cronies to go and earn rent. The maritime space, the blue economy. Look, Nigeria's coastline, if Nigeria were run by responsible people, can earn it 50 times what oil earns it. It doesn't take rocket science to do those kinds of things. It is doable, it is been done, and can be done.
When you say coastline, how do you mean?
The coastline provides you, let's take the simplest, tourism. I mean, I was in Barbados in January of this year, small country Barbados. They're even now offering Africans all kinds of things to citizenship. Just come and Nigeria is a more lovely place than those places. I mean, just get customs people and migration people to act more responsibly at the borders, liberalize access to land. A few incentives here and there, you see what happened at tourist space. But even more importantly, see so-called blue economy. What is out there at sea that is economic? But you got to stop appointing any kind of person to NIMASA Port Authority. All this nonsense that they're doing. You know, it's annoying. And our country is just lagging behind because government is irresponsible.
Are all these ideas and all these thoughts, I mean, this vision, is that contained in your manifesto?
Yeah, absolutely.
And is it explained and expanded? Because, I mean, I wonder whether political manifestos actually make any difference to election outcomes.
Yeah, it's a very, very important point that you make there. I mean, Mr. Peter Obi kept saying, manifesto, manifesto, manifesto. The ones you read yesterday, what did they do with them? Listen to me, hear me, gauge what I am saying to you. But because media like all that stuff, but we went about this manifesto in such a rigorous way that we soaked it in. The candidates internalized it. That's why, quote unquote, it took all this time. We started sitting down, the candidates and the team, the great team of guys from several sectors, and we brainstormed with the candidates. What's your vision? What would you like to see? This is how you could think. And they came on with stuff. And then we went to work and then came back. It's several iterations on this. And I can say at a point in this process, the poor Mr. Peter Obi was lying on the couch trying to get 1 hour's power nap to get back to it. Finished about 3 o'clock in the morning. We started around 4 in the evening, about 3 o'clock. This is one iteration, So when the thing had gone through all these processes, it had to be obvious that he was soaked in the deliverables. Then we began to work on the next thing, strategy. Premium execution is the thing. And another very important thing, in this fourth industrial revolution, where knowledge expires in months, a manifesto must be available for continuous revision. And so what we have created can actually be revised within 6 months.
So it's a living document.
The living document.
Right, okay.
And we're working it up, and we will provide metrics by which we can be held accountable.
Well, that's the next point I was going to make, because I'm wondering what the point of the manifesto is. Is it to catch the political eye of the people, to inform the public about why they should vote for you? Because most people take these manifestos with a pinch of salt. I mean, they believe the government rarely ever fully implement their manifestos, and that's a fact, isn't it?
Because those who led those governments did not even read their manifesto. I can tell you that because I've been in the writing of these manifestos. The people didn't even read the manifesto who are the ones who are in power. And some of them have actually said publicly, did I promise that? I did not promise that. They said, this is your manifesto. Oh, really? That's the manifesto. But not me. I was not the one who promised. In this particular case, those who are running this government slept on couches while this was being worked. That's to show you, how far down the line we went to make sure that this is an own document. So what are the things that you do? First of all, it's useful to build a contract with the people. It's a basis for holding the government accountable for performance. Secondly, it is a basis for shared values for all of those who will be involved in the implementation. Tomorrow, here in Abuja, while a rally is going on in Owerri, a group of us are doing a workshop on what kind of civil service can implement this manifesto. How do you energize that civil service? What do you make them do? And this is open. You can come tomorrow and participate and see what we must do. Civil service is dead right now. But can it be revived? Can it be resurrected? Yes, it can. And it is how that can be done that we're engaged with tomorrow, so that we can achieve the goals set in this manifesto.
And obviously, how you're going to pay for all this is obviously crucial. I mean, because that's the detail that everyone wants the parties and the candidates to be pushed on.
Yeah, very important. That's why we want to be held accountable. You see, part of the problem with those who have run Nigeria for a long time is that they've reduced themselves to either what they can earn from crude oil or what they can borrow. The truth is that most countries are run on much more than that. Let me take a couple of examples. The Diaspora Connect. When we were traveling around meeting diaspora, some people thought, oh, we're going to raise money. Hardly raised any money. It was because we needed to build a bond with the diaspora. Because many countries that have been in trouble have been saved by their diaspora. You go to Japan post-Meiji Restoration, India rising, China rising is the role. In 1991, India was technically bankrupt. Only 3 weeks trading money was left in their reserves. Rajiv Gandhi, who realized the errors of the policies of India, wanted to begin traveling a different track. But Rajiv was held hostage by the policies of his mother and grandfather, because to make different decisions would essentially repudiate his mother and grandfather, Pandit Nehru, Indira Gandhi. So Rajiv tried small steps, didn't go far. When he was killed in the assassination, and Congress Indira Party, not knowing what to do, waiting for the next Gandhi, appointed a man who had nothing to lose, Rao. And Rao appointed an awkward finance minister, awkward in terms of the traditions, Manmohan Singh. They began a series of reforms which led us at a point, by 1994, India was having injections of up to $1 billion a week coming from inbound investments. And most of that was coming from, I used to joke about this actually as a teacher. I say from a village in eastern Nigeria. What? I say, NRI. But it's actually NRI, non-resident Indians. So, if you get a diaspora, that's good. And don't play with the Nigerian diaspora. Currently, this Nigerian diaspora, which is responsible for 70% of doctors of color in America. This diaspora, which is now generally regarded as the single wealthiest ethnic nationality group in North America, with the reputation they build there, the connections they have there, can be a critical part of an investment flow process that can revive the Nigerian economy. Once they realize that the place is really safe, people can invest this, you'll be amazed what will happen with diaspora knock-on. Then, I mean, I can go you through, I know you want to ask.
Yes, well, we've got, unfortunately, we've got like about a minute or so left. I just want to be clear on the fact that obviously you have to win the election in order for all these things to happen. You are, of course, not only an intellectual and professor of repute, you're also a psephologist, and that is someone who's done a lot of research on elections. Given that, and given the hope that you have of going into this election winning, what's the best way not to be wrong about politics in Nigeria in 2023?
The young people of Nigeria, median age is 18, and they are fed up. They want something different. And they're not out of line, they're just following a trend on the continent of Africa. The last 5 major elections on the continent have been won by people who were not establishment politicians. Some won by people who actually established their political parties a few weeks before the election. The youth of Africa are fed up with these rent seekers. That group, they pretend, does not vote. They are going to vote. They're going to pretend to protect their vote. And if any of the shenanigans they typically try is tried, the place will blow up. I can tell you this for free. Because you see, and I've said so to the Americans, they've always pretended about democracy, but supported stability over democracy. And so they look at it, they know these fellows have finagled here and there, but somehow, maybe let's leave them. And so they, oh, well, it seems like the will of Nigerian people. We have told them, it's not the time to try that. It seems like the will of Nigerian people has ruined Nigeria. So the youth of Nigeria want to take their country back, and they want people who will work for the people. No messing this time.
On that note, I want to thank you very much indeed. Professor Pat Utomi is a professor of political economy, founder of the Center for Values and Leadership, and a chieftain of the Labour Party. Thank you very much.